Wow. What a beautiful thing to see. I wanted to quickly tell you how it appears as though patriotism is on the rise in the wake of this attack. Walmart is now saying it sold 450,000 American flags between Tuesday and Thursday. And Kmart is reporting that it has sold some 2,000 flags since Tuesday and that many of its stores are simply out of stock right now. Our coverage takes a short pause and we'll rejoin you in a moment or two. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Paula Zahn reporting from New York this morning. You are looking at the rescue area where efforts are underway. Rescue workers there not giving up hope. They might find someone trapped in the rubble, although we are told they have seen no signs of life in the last 3 days. Tons and tons of debris successfully moved out of this area. Tons more to go. City workers working around the clock, many working 24 hours straight and then off 24 hours. Stories of firefighters actually getting an hour of sleep by putting cots on sidewalks as debris continues to follow from adjoining buildings. And as we look at this skyline shot again, it is interesting to note that even though smoke still billows from the crash site, for the very first time you can actually make out some of the buildings that are south of where the World Trade Center once stood. We've got a lot of support here this morning, correspondents all over the world, help in major capitals. Bill Hemmer, as you've seen throughout the morning, will rejoin us from Jacob Javits Center, where he is in the middle of a crush of people who want to volunteer their services. Also joining me from Washington at the White House is senior White House correspondent John King. Actually, he's high above a platform there with a beautiful view of the Capitol this morning. And Miles O'Brien will also be with us throughout the morning from Atlanta. At this hour, I wanted to bring you very quickly up to date on the latest developments in America's new war. The FBI has arrested what they call a material witness in Tuesday's attack. He is one of the people detained at JFK Airport on Thursday. And CNN is told 2 men who have detailed knowledge of the terrorist network were taken into custody in Texas. They are on their way from New York to New York for more questioning. Authorities say the 2 men are moving the investigation forward. Meanwhile, the cockpit voice recorder has been recovered from the crash site of United Airlines Flight 93 in Pennsylvania. It was buried where the plane went down Tuesday near Shanksville. It is on its way to the NTSB in Washington for analysis. Investigators hope it will reveal exactly what the hijackers intended to do and what was said in the final minutes of the flight. Meanwhile, Congress has given President Bush authority to wage a worldwide war on terrorists. Use of force resolution was okayed with only 1 dissenting vote from Representative Barbara Lee of California. Congress also approved $40 billion to fund the war against terrorists and to clean up and rebuild the damage from Tuesday's attacks. And perhaps there's no one other than Martin Savage this morning who can give us a better idea of what these rescue workers confront at Ground Zero. Martin, good morning. What have you seen? What can we expect later today?
Well, good morning to you, Paula. We're at the intersection of Reed and Greenwich Streets. This continues to be a major artery for the rescue operation that is underway. Support personnel going in, equipment going in as well. And the figures that are now starting to come out as we expected are staggering. They are right now saying that the official death toll stands at 185. However, there are 4,717 people that have officially been reported as missing. On top of that, authorities say that there has been some 13,000 tons of debris that has been hauled away in 1,400 trucks, and they admit that is merely scratching the surface. They say only now really have they begun working around the perimeter of the debris field. There is still a great deal more that needs to be gone over. In the background you may see, and probably from where you are, the vantage point, that smoke continues to rise above the New York City skyline where those Twin Towers once did. You may be surprised to know that it is still burning. They're still putting water on that debris field. What is it that's burning? Fire experts say it's a number of things. It's a combination of jet fuel. It is also a combination that everything that was in those two buildings is still in those two buildings, however, greatly compacted under a lot of pressure. And it's that pressure that is allowing the fires to burn very slowly and very hot. A lot of things are melting inside of there. We're also hearing that the organization is becoming much better. One thing to point out, that when it comes to the rescue operation, the search for survivors, this is going to become less and less a volunteer effort, specifically on that site, and more a job that'll be handed over to the professionals. The volunteers are needed. They have a very specific role in helping supporting the effort. But more and more of the work down there at the site and the search is going to be done by professionals. And also they have brought in a special team from the southwestern part of the United States. This is a team that is accustomed to dealing with the wildfires out west, used to dealing with huge crowds of professional firefighters. They're setting up showers mainly for the emergency workers, and they expect on Sunday to open up the kitchens and begin serving meals for the professionals that are here. They estimate that they will be serving about 6,000 meals a day. We started with numbers. We'll finish with one other disturbing number. On average, in the city of New York, before all of this, they would get, usually authorities say, about 6 bomb threats a day. Since Tuesday, that number has skyrocketed to, on average, about 100 bomb threats a day. They warn anyone who makes a false report could face federal charges. Those charges, by the way, are a $250,000 fine and up to 10 years in prison. Paula.
Martin, Bill Hemmer has been interviewing people all morning long who have been lined up for 3 days to volunteer in some way. You've made it clear that in some of these more dangerous areas, their help cannot be used, but you said that the city could use them in a supporting role. What specifically does the city need from these thousands and thousands of people who are willing to stand there for 3 days in a row to pitch in?
Well, it's really, where do you begin to try to tell? There's all sorts of things that need to be done. The delivery of food, the delivery of supplies into the rescue area, into the work site specifically, helping to clean up, helping to serve meals, helping to perhaps provide first aid and comfort to the rescue workers out there. It's still a dirty and difficult job for them. There are many areas in which volunteers are needed. And keep in mind now,
okay, Kathy, tell them to hold the rubble pictures.
As money comes around, these workers are going to be going back, those volunteers that have been working so far. So it's like a new shift change that needs to come in of volunteers. They're still needed here. Paula.
Martin, thanks so much for that update. Once again, we're going to try to give you a close-up look now at what the rescue operation looks like at this hour. Cranes and bulldozers are picking away some of the heaviest pieces of what is left of the World Trade Center, but other work is being done on a much smaller scale. You actually have rescuers down there with plastic pails who are toiling in the muck, and hundreds of volunteers continue to slosh through the tons of rubble. I think we mentioned this, but it's worth mentioning again that already 10,000 tons of rubble have been removed. Unfortunately, though, after another day of effort, no new survivors have been found. 124 bodies recovered, with 59 identified, more than 4,700 people missing. Among those are the husband of Wendy Doremus, who joins me now. Welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning. Your husband was a photojournalist. Was he on duty? Yes, he's a photojournalist. I know you still hold hope.
Yes, I do.
And you have good reason. I have the city officials you've spoken with say there is still a chance your husband could be alive.
There's a number of people that have not been identified. He was down there. I spoke to him on Tuesday morning at 10:15, and he said he was safe. He was with the firemen, and I was supposed to meet him at his studio in 20 minutes. I haven't heard from him since. I did hear from, he said he was with the firemen, and I've been passing his photo, a copy of his photo, to everyone, and somebody called me on Wednesday evening and said he had seen my husband trying to get back down there. Could be amnesia because he's not listed anywhere so far among the survivors.
Put this into context for this morning. Is his studio downtown, not far from the World Trade Center? What was he doing downtown?
We live downtown. He's a photojournalist. He saw the smoke and he went to the story.
That would be his natural instinct.
That would
We're
be
gonna,
his natural instinct.
As you
He
talk,
left about 9 a.m.
We're going to show pictures that
Okay.
your husband has taken throughout his career. So he has worked in many dangerous situations before.
Yes.
Give us an idea of what he's confronted on the job.
He was at the Berlin Wall. He was at Gaza Strip during the Intifada. He's been in Northern Ireland. He does locally floods, disasters, airplane crashes. He knows how to go to a story. I wouldn't think he'd be foolish and go beyond it.
He knows how to exercise caution.
Yes.
Okay, so the phone call came through at 10:15, which means what? By that time, Tower 1 had collapsed?
Actually, I was trying to get him on his cell phone, and I had seen the first tower fall. And I called him and told him, I said, Bill, the first tower has fallen. I heard on the news that the Pentagon had also been hit, so it wasn't just a plane crash. It wasn't just an accident. I told that to him. He said he was safe with the firemen, and he would meet me at his studio in 20 minutes.
Before we go any further, I wanted to put up on the screen now a picture that he had actually taken of the World Trade Center before this horrific attack. When was this taken?
This was some years ago. He's an avid sailor. We sailed the Hudson, and on his sailboat he took this one sunny summer afternoon.
Now, at the time that your husband called you, or you had this conversation, and he said he was safe with firefighters, do you know his exact location?
I did not ask him. He did not tell me.
Did he give you enough information about what he had seen to help you better determine where he was?
No, he didn't tell me anything. I heard a little bit of coughing at the end of the conversation, but it didn't sound as if he was in the middle of the rubble.
And once again, we're going to put up a close-up picture of your husband, and this is something that CNN.com would like everybody to do who is missing a family member, because if you log onto that website and you download a picture, we are hoping that doctors and nurses and triage folks who perhaps have seen some of these victims will be able to link up with family members like you.
I've been trying to get his photograph everywhere in the city so that somebody might recognize him and call.
What have you done to find him?
I have gone to St. Vincent's has the comprehensive list of all the patients in the city hospitals. I have faxed his photo, his press photo, to all the major agencies. I've talked to the Photo District News. I've talked to all his press friends, trying to get his photo around. I have gone to all the fire departments that I've been reading about that were down there and trying to give his photo to the firemen. And as I said, somebody called me on Wednesday.
You described your husband as a very cautious and sensible man because of what he has faced on the job before. Based on what you told him about the first tower going, do you think that was enough of a warning to him to get out of there?
I think so. He didn't sound as if he was in danger. He does have two, teenage kids, and I know he wouldn't put himself in danger needlessly to get the story. He tries to get to the story, tell the story, but I don't think he would try to go beyond it.
Other than looking at the master list that St. Vincent's has, and I should explain to those of you who don't live in New York City, that is the hospital where most of the patients were initially transported because it's the closest.
Although I hear that in New Jersey, a lot of the patients, the first people who were injured were taken to New Jersey by ferry because it was a faster way to evacuate. And I have had very little information from New Jersey. I have friends who live there who have connections, and I'm hoping to get there and find out.
We've heard these heartbreaking stories from other people we've interviewed over the last several days. They've told us they literally have gone from hospital to hospital in New York City to try to track down their loved ones.
Right.
Do you need to do that now, or do you think you have enough contacts in these other areas?
I'm hoping. I don't want to hinder the rescue efforts of the doctors and the nurses, so I don't want to go into the hospitals. I've been trying to go to whatever centers there are and work through the press.
You seem hopeful. You seem very determined. Give us a closing thought of this nightmare that you are living through, and that thousands and thousands of other folks all over the world are living through this bizarre state of limbo.
It is a horrendous situation. We've always been New Yorkers. I love New York. This will not stop this country or this city. And I'm just hoping that everybody can work together, and they have been marvelous throughout. They're so cooperative, all the volunteers, and I know we're going to get through this, and I'm going to find my husband.
and the truth is, you probably have more reason to have hope, because you had that conversation at 10:15.
At 10:15, and if he wasn't in